All right, the first thing we're going to do is get you guys logged in to my gym to the elite system. If you have problems logging in, I can help. Just need to know who can't get logged in so I can help you. No. All right, Xavier, I'm going to send you a username and password, okay? Okay, Blount, check your email. Oh, you're in. Fuck. Venice, are you in? Okay, Venice, log out, log back in. Yeah, just reset your password and go ahead and try again. Check your email, Venice. And we're just missing Alexander and um, Tyler. Let me see if I can get them drag. Let's see if I can find them. Okay, there it is. All right, good. All right, Alexander, can you get logged in? Okay, good. All right, awesome. How's it going, Venice? Are you there with us? Okay. Oh no, I meant like you need to log in. So you go here, type in Georgia, and then it's going to ask you for a username and password. Put it in there. Let's see if I can find Tyler. Okay, good. All right, awesome. Blount's in there. Whatever happened to Venice? Venice, are you with us? Are you logged in? All right, good deal. I'm looking for Tyler now. Hey man, are you on? Did you get? You might not be in the right. Uh, right. The one I just sent you another link like 20 minutes ago. Well, can you type something in the box there? Does it have a chat box or anything? Are you looking at this on your phone or something? Uh, do you hear us talking about getting logged in? Okay, all right, you're in the right space then. So, all right, so can you log into my Gemsys? All right, go ahead and log in and make sure that you're under Organization Georgia, which brings. make sure that you're under. I mean, I'm sorry. Make sure. I'm sorry. Make sure that you're under Organization Georgia EMS Academy, and that goes for Venice. Okay. All right. Good deal. All right. So you're ready to go then? Can you log in? Log in. Make sure you're under Georgia email. I'll stand by on the phone for a second for you, so you can make sure you get that done. Because I don't want this. I don't want there to be any confusion. Okay. All right. Hold on a second. Let me fix that for you. All right. This is why we do this because this is the hardest part is getting people logged in. Okay. Tyler. Okay. I'm sending you a username and I'm sending you a username by email. Okay. And then I'm changing your password. I'm sending that yeah in a different email. Okay. All right. It's on the way. All right. Let me know when you get logged in. Okay. That's yes. Yes, Venice. It's Georgia EMS Academy. Yeah, that's the one. That's the new. That's going to ask you to make a new one. Remember that there's uppercase and lowercase in the user ID. It's case sensitive. The password I sent you was lowercase. Are you able to go? It's mygymsys.com/elite. Organization is Georgia. You type in Georgia and then it gets you to the username and password. Correct. it's gonna have a page that says, "What organization are you with?" You type in Georgia. Just type it out like GEORGIA. And then it's gonna bring you to the username and password section. I'm assuming that's what you're having confusion with, right? Let me send you the link. Okay. Okay. All right. And check your email. That's where you're supposed to go and log in. Okay. All right. Good deal. All right. So now make sure you're in the right organization, not AlphaMed. We'll wait for Alex to get back. Yep. Okay. All right. Good deal. All right. Listen for further instructions online. Okay. Bye bye. Okay. Venice, are you in Georgia EMS Academy? One more thing to attend to. Let me just call Venice. It's apparently we've lost communication with her. She sent me an email. Oh yeah, I got her. Okay. Okay, that's fine. All right, so now we're going to start with the first one. So just do it. So we're gonna do the first three. They're going to be cancellations. Okay. I don't remember if you did these or not, but anyway, let's start with we're going to do the first one. So just follow my instructions very carefully. Okay. Okay, here we go. All right, so we go in here, and now what I want you to do is go to incidents and click on Georgia PCR EMS version 3.5 form. Okay. Okay, you should be looking at that. When you're looking at that, let me know. Good deal. All right, moving right along. All right, so just do exactly what I do. All right, incident number, cancel. Okay, EMS response number, cancel. Okay, hit next. Add a crew member. We're going to add aimer. Yeah. Then we get next. All right, so if you're having a hard time following all of them, let me recap. We added cancel to incident number, EMS response number. We left this blank, even though it asks us for information. There's a reason for that. We click next, and we added aimer as our crew member. He already had roles assigned, so all you have to do is click next. Now, dispatch reason, abdominal pain problems. And then so keep moving right along. Next, you're going to click. It's going to add for unit info. It asks you what unit you're on. Med 1, BLS ground ambulance. First EMS unit on scene. Yes. Next, type of service requested. 911 response to the scene. It is non-emergent. Number of patients, none. It's very important that you put none here. If you do not put none on there, the validation on this thing is going to ruin your life. Okay? So do you think about the smoke this thing's going to bring if you do this wrong. So click none and then unit disposition. Very important that you put no patient found. Crew disposition, back in service, no care, support services required. Then click next. Incident location type is a private residence. You're going to type in an address. You're going to put in a zip code. Under incident postal code, click this little button here, incident address lookup. put in select the address that makes sense for you. I don't care what zip code you put this in. It just wants a working zip code. You just can't finger drill it. It has to actually be a legit zip code. Okay, then click next, and then next, and then now the times. It's gonna be really important that you do this in sequence because if you do this out of sequence, the validation is going to rear its ugly head. So start here, boom. Yes, all right, I'm sorry. Start at the top. PSAP call time. Hit the little clock. Dispatch notified. Hit the clock. Unit notified. Hit the clock. Hit cancel to update the crew. Hit the clock to acknowledge time. En route time. And then last but not least, it's got something. It's got me flagged here for something here on dispatch info. Let's see. Oh, lower acuity. All right, there you go. And that is 100% validation. So you're going to hit save. Unit disposition was, let me go back to it. Let me tell you what, let me just start all over. Let me just review from the top. Incident number, cancel. EMS response number, cancel. Leave the unit time blank. Add aimer as your crew member. Dispatch, abdominal pain problems, lower acuity. Unit info is Med 1. You're the first unit on scene. Response info, 911 response. It's not emergent. Number of patients in disposition, no patients, no patient found. Under disposition, you're going to put back in service, no care support services required. You'll have to log in. You'll have to either click this link here to open it up on the side, or you can just find it in the drop down menu. Then hit save. And then once you're done with that, then you're going to click the menu button at the bottom, hit finish incident. And then you're going to close it out. Let's see what you guys have been doing. It looks like we're having it's a little slow saving things today. Okay. Uh, all right. All right. Venice is with us. Timothy's with us. All right. Tyler, what's going on? We'll wait. We'll give Tyler a minute. Everybody's doing 100%. Oh, there he is. Yay. Okay. Everybody's on it. Okay. Now what I want you guys to do is do two more exactly like that. Okay. Okay. Go ahead and just we'll do that on your own. Okay, looks like you guys are uh, on this. You done the three. Venice is having some problems. She's having a hard time saving these things. I don't know if you guys are experiencing the same delay. I'm seeing two, so it looks like Timothy, you got two done. I need three. Venice, you still got us one more, and Ephraim's got two in here. We just need one more. Okay, I got you, Venice. Yeah, it's a little weird. It was a little weird yesterday this time. So I don't know why it's like that. All right. We've all done three. Let's just see. Venice, Timothy, Timothy. It's like Timothy. Is yours hung up, Timothy? Oh, he's still working on it. Okay. Okay. The reason why we're doing this is because there's a requirement that you have 10 patient care reports. Okay. And the state office, they will check up on this. They do, or they can. They have checked up on us. You know, again, we're not part of a tech school, so they just want to fuck with us all the time. So, I don't know. To protect yourself, we got to have 10 patient care reports. All right. Okay. All right. Y'all keep trying. But we got a minute here. So before we move on to the next one, I'll give you guys a chance to get that third one in. Okay. Are you guys still having problems with this? Okay. All right, well, let's just give it a break. Okay. Let's move on to something else real quick. Okay. All right. Look, let's just give it a break. No problem. Look, remember, you guys, you can add that later. Okay. All right. So let's go. So now that you've had an introduction to this damn thing, let's talk about how you could use this. How could you actually document a legit call with this system? And so um, again, this is kind of the bane of existence for pretty much most people that work on the ambulance. They really hate having to write a patient care report. It's extremely, it's just a lot of data. Okay. And like it's leaving the medic, whoever's writing the report, to input all the data. And then like, and then like the people that run the ambulance service, I'm like, well, you know, I'll say, yeah, they need something that kind of just all this information's already in there, and they're like, no, they don't. They can fucking do it because we're paying them to do it, and it just wears you down. Okay, so it shouldn't be that difficult. Um, so what we're gonna do is, um, I'm going to show you a video, and I'm going to narrate a little bit because I haven't only put any sound in it. And so this is a a video that I came up with on AI, and it's a little weird. So you guys appreciate the AI ness of this. So the All right, so here we go. We're in an ambulance bay, and we are um, checking off our truck in the morning. Okay, so these guys are talking about stuff, and then they're gonna start looking at their equipment. And yeah, that we know that that's not what an ambulance looks like, but whatever. Okay, he's apparently obsessed with tape. What do you think about this tape? It's fucking AI. Okay. And then dispatch comes through. It looks like a Baofeng radio that you get on eBay. Okay, so they're going to go to their truck, which is going to look different than the truck that they were dispatching. There, they're going back and forth with the dispatcher. Okay. Now they're streaming across town to an emergency call. It looks like they're in Canada. I feel like that's where if you said AI put me in a city, it likes Toronto for some reason. I don't know why. Okay. And he's apparently doing more inventory while she's driving him to the call. I'm not quite sure. And there's a lights inside the truck, which is bizarre. Okay, so now we're backed into the person's driveway, which is always a good idea. And there's your patient. You meet the patient at the door, and so you automatically go, oh, she has signs of circulation, and she is alert. I don't know what this part here is about, but whatever. Anyway, so they're going to go see the patient, and they have, um, and so now we're going to have a conversation with the patient about we're going to have the sample history. It hurts so bad. And then they're talking about it. Somebody's got a camera there. This gets weirder by the second. Okay, and then she's telling him about the complaint that she has. And then her partner's taking vital signs. Now he's touching her inappropriately. A physical examination. Okay, I told you this video was weird. Okay, and then now they're talking and they're going back and forth. And saying, well, I think we should go to the hospital. So they put her on the stretcher, but instead of her, they put a clone of the medic. AI just does you weird this way. And oh yeah, there's two of the same other medics there. It's so weird. Now they drive the ambulance into the hospital. Hmm. And then they talk about it and do some, high fiving and stuff. And there you go. That's the end of the call. Obviously, they're not writing anything up because it's probably Canada. I don't know. All right, so that's the call. That's a pretty standard, but that's just a standard call. I mean, that's like there's nothing to that call. Okay, so let's take a look at the philosophy behind this call. All right, so here we go. We started off with the scene size up. Okay, scene safe one patient. So let's just run it back and just see what. Let's run this call back and see what we're there. We get okay, so we're going back and forth with dispatch, and we're streaming across town, and we make it to the patient. We drive across town in the ambulance, and then um, we make it to the scene, and the scene appears safe. And as far as we know, there's only one patient. So now we make contact with the patient. All right, so this is where the primary survey begins. Okay. Again, this is not it's not counterintuitive for you because we've been doing this, but this is where the primary survey begins. And you need to understand this because this is how you're going to document the call. This helps you helps you have some framework to document the call instead of looking at it as some kind of some I don't know a fucking sales call or service call or something along those lines. Look at it like it's an actual like a multi-phase situation that we've trained for. All right, so then you're getting the primary survey. So airway's clear. She's alert. Okay, yeah, she obviously is in distress. She does not appear to look like she's having any problems breathing. I'm going to assume that she has a radial pulse. Okay. Now we're going to do a focus. We're going to do a sample history, and then your partner is going to take a set of vital signs, and then you're going to do a focused physical exam, which in this case is a little weird, but whatever. Okay, and then we're going to transport, and that's how the call went. And so let's go back to the Chinese menu, and you can see uh, that we literally did everything. We did a scene size up, we did a primary survey, then we chose the follow-up assessment as a focus history and physical exam. And can anybody tell me what you think is wrong with her based off the index of suspicion? Does anybody have any ideas what you think is wrong with the patient based off the index of suspicion? Let's see, abdominal pain, female of childbearing years, ectopic pregnancy. There you go. Boom. Yes. This is what you're supposed to think. I didn't say that you were going to be smarter coming to this class. You're just going to think like an EMT. Okay. So, yeah, it could just be gas. Okay. All right. So now that we've done all that, now we're going to write this call up. Okay. All right. So, oh, and of course it logs me out. So we're going to start a new call. All right. So when you get to this point, when you get to the point where we can start a new call, let me know. Okay. I don't want to run it. I don't want to just like blow through this and you guys can't keep up. So it's not a good sign, not a good omen. There we go. Okay, when your page looks like, okay, when you're ready, let me know. Okay, good. All right, Xavier, let me know when you get ready to do another patient care report. Okay, cool. Okay, good. You started on the fourth one, right? Yeah, this is kind of frustrating, but anyway, all right. So we got a couple ready. Let's see if here Venice says no. Come on. Alex said straighten yourself out. All right. All right. He's ready. Okay, let's start. All right. So now we're going to call this abdominal pain. Abdominal pain. We're going to leave this blank. Okay, we're going to come back to this. We're going to leave it blank. Hit next. You're going to add crew members. This time you're going to need to add at least two crew members. So we're going to add Aimer in there. We're going to give him a role. Okay. So we've got two medics there. Dispatch reason is abdominal pain. Okay, so this dispatch priority is emergent. All right, let's talk about EMD real quick. So a lot of you guys, part of this, part of understanding what's in a patient care report is understanding how dispatch works, okay, or worked. So keep in mind that there's been a tremendous amount of innovation with EMS since 1976. So like in 1974, there was the Highway Safety Act, which kind of made EMS something that everybody had to have, right? And then moving forward, 10 years later, uh, you know, the priority shifted from maybe car accidents to cardiac arrest. So EMS found a new kind of role in the and the role was to get a paramedic to the scene of a call where somebody was in cardiac arrest, where they can be defibrillated with a Life Pack 5. That was the point. And so this was the public was interested in this. The public was interested in this thanks to television shows like Emergency. And who really was the big winner of this? Well, actually, it was the phone company. The phone company was the people that was behind all this. So my opinion is that EMS went down this road of having to like have a paramedic on every truck, thanks to the phone company. The phone company screwed us where we were unable to really develop our BLS resources into something that was more cost effective. And so now when you call 911, especially like in Gwinnett, you don't just see one paramedic, you probably see like fucking five paramedics because of their career path over there. Not just they're the last ones that are doing this nonsense. It's completely unsustainable. The only reason why Gwinnett has all this stuff is they spend this ungodly amount of money on their fire department. But trust me, I mean, I live in an area where the money ran out. I worked in DeKalb, the money ran out. It happens. Like unless we come up with something sustainable, you know, that you're going to find like there's a law that just came out where that talked about that capped out how much money an ambulance can service can charge for a transport. That really sucks for places that have all this infrastructure, all these damn paramedics and all this shit just floating around here, and all the person needed was a damn ride to the hospital. So it's very hard to put it all together for people that are intelligent. It would be very easy for someone that was broke to put this together. All right, so because of that, so let me go back to EMD. So because of all of that, so EMS was developed, and so so it wasn't just car accidents and other stuff. It was chest pain and cardiac arrest, and so but people are also calling for drug overdoses, abdominal pain, all this kind of stuff, and so it's the people that work on the ambulance are saying, hey, there's ship where we're going across town in this ambulance and we're risking our lives and we're causing accidents to happen for something stupid like you know a burn at a or like maybe a sunburn or maybe a splinter or something like that. And so none of these calls are life threatening. Very few of these calls are life threatening. So why can't dispatch triage the calls better and allow ambulances to self downgrade their response? So what that means, what I'm trying to say when I say that is instead of going lights and sirens to the call, the ambulance will go not lights and sirens to call, just go with the flow of traffic and just go pick the person up and run the call without the benefit of the lights and sirens. And so this is all being done without the benefit of somebody being on scene saying you can do that. And it worked. It worked great. The problem was the public was okay, especially the fire department didn't like it, obviously, because you've got to think about that they're going to be really in touch with they feel like it's poor customer service. Also, the fire department goes on these calls because they need something to do. So they go to the call and they sit around and wait for 45 minutes for an ambulance to get there. You know what I'm saying? Like it pisses the fire department off because and the ambulance crew is like, well, hey, we all we had to do was get there within a certain period of time. So this was something that was derived by people who are reasonable that understand medicine and risk, and we're having to deal with the general public who probably doesn't like waiting for an hour for an ambulance or being put on hold, and also the fire department who also inadvertently inserted themselves into this situation, and now they're having to wait for an hour for an ambulance to get there. So thus EMD was developed. It's called emergency medical dispatch. In emergency medical dispatch, it is possible to self downgrade the ambulance. And so this was done through a system of cards, and the card, based off the responses to the card, that you'd get a grade. So let's just say that um, uh, that EMD was performed. Okay, and so there's a lot of places that are actually still doing EMD, but they're not actually downgrading the ambulance. Like DeKalb, they would spend a lot of money on their EMD system, training the dispatchers to do all this stuff, and they won't. That the ambulances aren't allowed to downgrade. They're going lights and sirens to each and every call. It's fucking insane. All right, so and then let's say they gave it card number 8 with Delta, which with Delta determinant means it needs to go highest priority. Okay. All right. We are Med 1. We are a BLS equipped ground transport. We are the first unit on scene. See, if you put other units on scene, then they would want to know who else was on the scene. See that? But we'll keep it. We'll have another call where we have to do that. All right. So we hit next. Type of service requested is a 911 response. We did go emergent. Okay, let's look at this for a second. All right, reason for transport or visit. Now you might say, "Well, it seems obvious if we're going to a 911 call, why would we need to put this in there?" Look, not all calls are going to be dispatched to the 911 system. You guys that work for private ambulance services, none of your calls are going through the 911 system. So this is where you would type in there maybe scheduled transport for dialysis or interfacility transport or whatever. There's a whole world of stuff that happens outside the 911 system in an ambulance. Okay. Number of patients, we have one patient. Now look what happened to our validation. Now all of a sudden, patient contact made. So now our validation dropped down to 34, and look at all the stuff we're going to have to put in there to satisfy this thing. So this validation is no nonsense. Patient evaluation, patient was evaluated and care was provided. The crew disposition was initiated and continued primary care. Transport decision, transport by this unit. Okay, here's some other factors that was patient acuity level. It's going to ask us about this later. I'm going to say that this is a um, lower acuity patient. I'm not quite sure what alternative disposition offer and result. Not sure what that means. Alternative disposition offer. Maybe they offered you a different route, a different way to get to the hospital. Maybe I don't know what people are doing these days. I mean, like like I said, in the cab, it was they just didn't want to take people to the hospital that didn't need to go by ambulance. It was basically about reducing the number of ambulance calls by educating the public about when they should and shouldn't call 911, which I was behind that. Um, it could be about something totally different now. It could be like, hey, if we go to the hospital, we're gonna have to wait for 3 hours on the wall. I mean, is it worth it? These are all reasonable things. All right, so incident location type is a home or residence. Okay. Incident location address is 123 Elm Street. Type your postal code in there. Look it up and hit next. All right, so let's talk about delays. All right, so documenting delays is useful. You got to remember who's going to read your report. It's kind of hard to understand. Like right now, you guys are working for a private ambulance, and you're thinking the billing the guy that runs the ambulance service and the billing clerk reads your report because each report. I mean, because that's really the finished product of the call. That's the product is the actual documentation. That's going to allow. They're going to someone's going to send that piece of paper to a billing company and they're going to get money for that. Okay, and so that's why you're doing it. This is why the documentation is so important. But what if it was a hotly contested area like DeKalb County where like the perfect example. You live in Dunwoody. You called 911 because you have chest pain. It took an hour for the ambulance to get there. You want to know why? You demand a reasonable response time because you're a Dunwoody resident, but it's not happening. So what do you do? So through the Freedom of Information Act, you request information about this call, and you want to know where was this damn ambulance? Why do we have to wait an hour for a call for an ambulance to get there? See, so everybody else in the cab's okay with waiting an hour, but people of Dunwoody are not because the people of Dunwoody paid for all this shit. So this is kind of where the money is located in DeKalb County, and so they piss and moan when the ambulance doesn't show up. Um, so this is what they've actually gone through and changed state law about who can respond. They're actually going to get their own ambulance service one day, just serves Dunwoody and not worried about the rest of the damn county. So and that's going to suck for DeKalb. Like I said, it's Dunwoody. They're tons of lawyers and stuff that live there. I'm sure they can screw somebody, but they've already managed to change state law. So anyway, documenting because of things like that, you may need to delay to explaining why you were delayed is important. Probably the biggest delay that we used to run into was getting delayed by a train. All right, we're going to come back to the response times. Okay, so let's move on to patient information. All right, so look, you got several ways to input information here, and it's time to really talk about like what exactly does um, should the information gathering process look like on an ambulance? Um, it should look like it should be closer to it should be closer to something that they do at the doctor's office. Okay, the current arrangement is that you go to this call and you think this is the first time this person called. Now, it never dawns on you when you're in the middle of this call that this person calls 10 or 15 times a year because you don't see them every shift. So a person could literally call 911 once or twice a month and you would never know. Isn't that interesting? So think about this, but the database knows. The database knows about it. So this is why they added this frequent flyer button on here. So you can click on that and there's a lookup. Um, honestly, like how often does this happen? It's about 90% of your patients. 90 to 95% of your patients have called before, and you already have all their information already in the system. All you have to do is figure it out. But nonetheless, there are going to be all these assholes that you work for that just can't wrap their head around that, and they're just gonna, they literally they are just going to try to pull all this. They're just going to write it down. You're going to have like the same patient information being inputted into the system like 50 times. Um, it's hilarious. It happens all the time. I'm sure you can't control these dumbasses. So another option here that they give you is to scan people's driver's license card. That's pretty cool. That's new. Okay, and then. But we're going to input the patient's name in here. Like this is the first time she called 911. So Doe Jane J. Okay, date of birth is 01/01/1981. Okay, it tells us that she's 45 years old. Race is called as white. Putting a social security number in there is not a bad option because um, the because uh, something it's like another piece of information that could help the ambulance service get paid. I don't know again because I guess it sounds like I'm just really worried about the ambulance service getting paid, but you kind of need to be worried about that. All right, so then we go to patient address, and you click on patient address the same as the incident address. It's not always going to be that way, but it will be that way most of the time. Most people calling 911 that you're going to responding to their home. And again, this again, it should be very easy. And again, I still feel like you're inputting way too much information here. All right, so closest guardian. This would be useful for somebody for a patient like a minor. Okay, and so like you picked up a kid at public school, and so the public school, so so you'd have to have guardian information. Okay, but this is not the case because the patient is of legal age. So then you move on to this page here is asking about infectious disease questions. These are standard questionnaire type stuff. Did you travel out of the country? Blah blah blah. Patient history. All right, so now we're going to type this in. All right, so there's two ways to do it. You can find it here, or you can stick it over here. You can click this link and it'll put you over here on the side. But she's going to have two main problems. She's going to have hypertension, and this would be referred to as essential or primary hypertension. Okay, and then and then I'm going to say that she's also a diabetic. and she's going to be I'm going to make her a type 2 diabetic. And you might say, I mean, type 1 is juvenile onset, type 2 um, is adult onset. Um, they both can take insulin. So it's really, ultimately for us, it doesn't really matter. But you can't get the dumbasses that write this software or doctors to really understand that it doesn't really matter to us if they're juvenile or adult onset in an ambulance because we're mainly concerned about do they take insulin? And the reason why we kind of like insulin dependent patients because they're more predictable. So if you had to actually leave the patient at home or not transport the patient or whatever, then you would have then that would have been a lot easier to it would have been so people with who take insulin are easier to deal with where people who take like oral hypoglycemics are not. Again, that's the main thing, but I mean, by all means write it down. All right, so then we scroll down and we look for alcohol drug use indicators, and you just put none reported. It turns that off. Possible pregnancy. We're going to say possible unconfirmed because we were thinking this could be a female of childbearing years. Patient medication. All right, so we're going to type in, we're going to say she takes glucophage. Okay. And exactly how much glucophage they take, I don't exactly recall. I think it's like 25 milligrams, but I don't remember. Okay. And we're going to get it, say she takes that every 4 hours. Now in Atlanta, you wouldn't really care about like, you can put oral here, but like, the, um, you wouldn't exactly worry about, um, like what pharmacy they use. But like I said, if you're in Habersham, I don't know about now because the fire department runs it. They probably don't give a crap. But I worked for the hospital, and that was like any of this information was all like super relevant. So like they wanted to know like what the patient's primary care physician was, who the primary care physician is, like what pharmacy they go to. All this stuff was like super important. All right, and then we're gonna have her taking lisinopril. And we're going to say that she takes 10 milligrams or 20 milligrams once a day. Once a day. Okay. And then we move on to next, and we got patient allergies. This is kind of interesting. So medication allergies are like obviously what let's say that she is allergic to codeine. Okay, there's a lot of people allergic to codeine. Okay, it's going to ask you what you're supposed to like what happens, comments. Okay, so let me just help you out. You could choose to just write it down, or you could say um, just leave it blank. So, but basically, when a person has an allergy, what we're looking for are allergies that are interactions with medications that result in anaphylaxis. That's what we're worried about. We're not really exactly worried about you get constipated because you take a narcotic. We don't care about that because at the end of the day constipate. That's just a side effect. Okay, they tell that to everybody. Okay, that could happen to anybody. All right, and then she might tell you about a food allergy, and this is a weird time where people are allergic to all kinds of stuff. Right? Here's one that I discovered on here. People are allergic to potatoes. Can you believe that? What the hell? That's bizarre. All right, immunizations. You probably won't write that down. All right, barriers to patient care. None noted. Now, what exactly is a barrier to patient care? Let's look at that. So this is going to be like alcohol use, religious, developmentally impaired, drug use, suspected, hearing impaired, language, obesity. These are all things that would make it more difficult for you to assess and transport your patient. Obviously, obesity, because it would be difficult, you have to, it requires more infrastructure to move that person around. Language is not uncommon in Atlanta. Also, in the same vein as cultural and custom religious problems. So there are many people that might, maybe they don't want you to talk to them because of their religion. You can't talk to females or children or whatever. Sometimes I've never seen anybody alcohol being a precursor other than this, unless they're just unconscious. And same with drug use. Um, the all right, patient complaints. Okay, so the complaint is abdominal pain. It's been going on for 3 hours. Okay, and yeah, okay. All right, the chief complaint is abdomen. It is GI. Primary symptom is abdominal pain. Let's see. Okay. Provider impression is pain, abdominal pain. Let's see. Okay. I would say I would mark this as lower acuity. It is not cardiac arrest. There's not a possible injury, and we do not think it's a stroke. It's going to ask you later. All right. All right. So we didn't do a 12 lead. All right. So this would be pretty useful information to ask about her OB history. So this is we never really talked about this in class because I'm really, when someone's pregnant, I just want you to look for crowning. However, there's going to be a lot of near misses out there, and so having a little bit of knowing what the GPMA assessment, um, and they don't even go to the MA, but anyway, gravida means how many times the patient has been pregnant, and then para means number how many live births of viable offspring the patient delivered. So let's say that she is 2 for 2. Since we think this is an ectopic pregnancy, we would definitely be thinking about this is a possibility. Okay. All right, vital signs. We got it takes every truck needs every truck needs a full set of vital signs. Okay. All right. So when we go in here, we look. So blood pressure also measurement is a manual auscultated. It is 123/58. Heart rate is 100. You might say, what's a mean arterial pressure? Mean arterial pressure is another way to look at blood pressure. It's a combination of diastolic blood pressure and systolic blood pressure, and it's good for acute situations. It kind of gives you one number. Okay. Oh yeah, what was the second med? The second med was lisinopril. Okay. All right. Method of heart rate measurement was manual, was palpated. Pulse oximetry was 98%. Rhythm is regular. Respiratory rate is 20. Respiratory effort is normal. All right. We did not do end tidal CO2. We didn't use our carbon monoxide, but we did check the blood sugar because she's a diabetic, because you should always do that. I'm not saying everybody needs a blood sugar, but if the person is not alert and the patient is a diabetic, you need to take the blood sugar. I mean, that's just all I can tell you about that. And if you don't, you're wrong. You're just fucking wrong. Okay. I'm sorry. All right. So Glasgow Coma Scale. We never really talked about the GCS so much. The Glasgow Coma Scale is useful for patients. Is a way that hospitals use to describe a person combination of all of mental status and level of consciousness. So we recall that level of consciousness was alert, verbal, painful, unresponsive, and the way we looked at it in class was it was either alert or not alert, right? Okay. Well, these are like shades of gray. This Glasgow Coma scale gives you some shades of gray. Okay, so it's a 3 to 15 scale. So a person who's perfectly is alert and perfectly oriented and follows commands is a 15. But a person in cardiac arrest is a 3. Again, it's not a very useful thing for EMS. We don't sit around going, "Oh, you should have seen that patient's GCS. It's 8. Yeah, I had one that was 7." Which is really are not conversations that we have about this. Um, what we're talking about is this is really for the hospital. A lot of the stuff that we're doing is for the hospital benefit, like the stupid auscultated blood pressure. I mean, if it needed to benefit you and you alone, you would just do a palpated blood pressure. It's simpler. It doesn't require any of the same amount of finesse or equipment, So, but nonetheless, we are trying to satisfy the people at the hospital so that we can get this patient to be seen in a reasonable period of time. They want you to qualify your GCS score, and so its initial GCS has legitimate values without interventions. Okay, and so then it wants your level of responsiveness is alert. Pain scale is a 6. Now, do you think this patient needs pain control? I kind of think she does. You can't give it. This is where your ace in the hole would have to show up. But of course, maybe they have, but it always been kind of controversial to give people medications with abdominal pain. But honestly, I think you guys could. I think they should add nitrous oxide to your scope of practice as an EMT. I think that'd be awesome. Okay, pain scale is a numeric. Okay, we didn't do a stroke scale. Okay, we didn't deliver a baby, so there's no APGAR. Okay, okay, all right. So before we go any further, real quick, let's go into times. Okay. Okay, let's go to response times. And I don't want to do all the response times because like what we're going to have to do here is lay out like a come on. All right, give me a second here. There we go. Okay. Okay. So let's go ahead and put some times in here. So we have to make sure our times track. Of course, you're getting your times from dispatch. Remember, we got to keep it updated. We got to have to keep it in sequence, right? Knowledge time. Oh yeah, by the way, since we're looking at times, let's look at what these times mean. Okay, just go ahead and just add times in sequence all the way down to arrived at the patient. Okay, and then we're going to try to do here is back up to a good time for this vital sign we just took. So let's go back into patients, go to vital signs, and so now let's put this time in here. Let's say now it's like 18. It's 0841 on my clock here. Yeah. Okay, good. All right. See, it says it. So, all right. So there you go. So that looks pretty good. We'll finish the times off later. And now it flagged this thing for a disposition here. Let's see. Oh, there it goes. Level of care provided per protocol was BLS, all levels. We'll come back to the response times. All right, the patient information, possible pregnancy. We said uh, possible unconfirmed. I don't know. Actually, I don't even know why it flagged it. I don't even know. All right. So anyway, it make it happy. Okay. Patients. Now we're on provider impressions. Provider impression. We already answered this, but it's abdominal pain. Okay. Okay. So now the whole thing looks pretty good. All right. So we've got the narrative, and then we've got some. We're going to come back. I like to do the narrative last. So the last thing I do on a patient care report is the narrative. So what I try to do is I try to spend most of my time inputting the data. And again, it should that most of the stuff should already be in there. You shouldn't be putting times in there. You shouldn't be putting an address. If it's somebody that we see all the time, there's all this information should already be there. Uh, the This is why people hate this fucking job so much because of all this redundant information that you're having to like. So you feel like you're an information broker. You're not really um, not really like a clinician. You know what I'm saying? So all right. So number of patients transported was one. Patient was moved to the ambulance. I would like to see. I would have moved this patient by a stretcher. Now, is it okay to move patients, but let them walk to the ambulance? Yeah, it is. But I mean, in her case, she's having severe abdominal pain. What if she's also nauseous and dizzy and she falls? So, like, if you walk someone to the ambulance, let me just tell you this. If you walk someone to the ambulance, there better not be a problem. That's all I can tell you. If the person trips on their shoelaces because you didn't roll, that's your ass. Okay. So, you better so I'm not telling you to take everybody to the hospital by or put everybody in the stretcher in the ambulance by stretcher, but it would you'd be better off if you did. And remember, let's go back to the hospital. If you've ever been to the hospital and you get discharged, they actually insist on pushing you to the front door of the hospital in a wheelchair, even if you could walk. That's just risk management. Okay. That's just risk management stuff that every hospital does. Okay. Transport mode from the scene was going to be non-emergent. There's no reason in hell you should ever turn lights and sirens off for a call like this. Patient position was in the Fowler's position, which is an upright, seated upright position. Transport method was ground ambulance. Destination transferred to names. We're going to just transport to Capital Regional Medical Center, wherever that is. Okay. Reason for choosing this hospital is it is the patient's choice, which which is going to be the vast majority of factor when you make a decision about a hospital. And yeah, and by the way, what would happen if what would happen if your patient says, "I want to go to Capital Hospital," but then you call Capital Hospital and go, "Oh, they're on diversion." Oh, thank you. And so you inform the patient, and the patient says, I still want to go to Capital. I don't even know what diversion means. Even though you try to explain it to them, where do you go? You go to the hospital they want to go to. Otherwise, it's called kidnapping. Okay. This is why you're doing this and not Uber. Okay. Hospital capability is a general hospital. All right. There's the address. I already have the address of the hospital. Now that would be, I mean, they could be putting this stuff in there. All right, you could be going to a dialysis clinic too. So just keep in mind, you didn't have to be. Also, are ambulances transporting? Can ambulance transport to places that are not a hospital? Like, can you transport to urgent care clinic? It's being done. It's totally being done. In fact, honestly, I think that urgent care, I think there should be a merger between urgent care and ambulance service. I think that's where the sweet spot is. And then this bullshit where the fire department does it is nonsense. They're not doing anything out of it other than just staying alive. The people that probably should own should the people that should probably do ambulance service is probably going to be urgent care clinics. I mean, they have an urgent care clinic, and out of that is an ambulance service. That'd be my pick right there, baby. All right, hospital pre-arrival alerts. All right, so we did not alert, but what exactly is an alert? Let's just take a look at some of these alerts. So there's a sepsis alert. Some hospitals have a sepsis team. Uh, some are trauma centers. Some are, if you call and you have a cardiac arrest, then they're going to send their cardiac. They're going to send their code team. Obstetrics. Now, normally they don't have a team or a specific place at the hospital to do obstetrics. I mean, they don't have like it's not a call out. It's not a pre-arrival alert because what's going to happen is you're going to go to the OB department. But I don't know. This is generic software. They use this for everywhere. Maybe that's not how they do it. I don't know, Nevada. Who knows? Okay. So there's a stroke center, STEMI. These are all pre-arrival alerts, but we didn't have an alert for them, which is just a simple ride to the hospital. Okay. So we satisfied that. Let's go back to up here at the top incident. Let's go back and finish out our response times. All right, our times are satisfied. That was easy. And let's go to mileage and just put in like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 5, 1, 2, 3, 6. Okay. And it calculates all your mileages for you and stuff. Man, this finger mouse thing is just giving me a problem today. Oh, yeah. This mouse is not liking me today for some reason. Okay. There it goes. Okay. All right. So now we're going to move out from there and we're going to go to, let's see what patient information it wanted. Let's see. Oh, female. All right. We're at 99%. Look, so now you see what is the value of your narrative? It's only 1%. Could you submit this legally without an actual narrative in it? You could. But look, look, how much data did we just put in here? We just put in an enormous amount of data. Okay. The narrative was a free form space where you could put all this information into and you could you could write what happened in there and you could like explain stuff that wasn't necessarily covered, but they'd have data that covered about 99% of the situations that you're going to run into. Okay. The narrative needs to tell the story of the call and explain things that you think you're going to be called out on later. So you explain the call and cover your ass. That's basically the purpose of it. Narratives have been written by literally the least fucking literate people on earth. Okay. Um, I've been to court with and had to read my narratives in the past, and having to explain what I wrote and stuff. I can do it. Um, but but honestly, I mean, like you want to make this easier for yourself. You don't know who's going to be reading this later. Okay, you want to be able to tell the story and cover your ass. Okay, so the way I suggest you do that is to use the Chinese menu format. Just write what you did in the order that you did it, and in the words of the Chinese menu. Okay, and then that's really all that would happen. So here we go. I'm going to write this up using the Chinese menu as the format. So scene size up, one patient, no mechanism. Now, obviously, I know that we already inputted that there was only one patient on this call, but we nowhere on this form was there anything to report that there was no mechanism of injury. You see, whoever wrote this was not thinking about the actual patient care flow. It was just simply some way to collect all this, organize all this data is what they came up with. Okay. Um, Primary survey. I like to always put how we found the patient. EMS found the patient standing on the porch, alert, no respiratory distress noted, radial pulse. See, what else is there's nothing else in a primary survey. Okay. And we set the stage for the whole call. How'd you find the patient? Well, they're alert. We found them on the porch. I mean, that explains a lot. I mean, right off the bat. So if somebody calls now, it's like, why didn't you take this patient to the trauma center? Some dumbass calls out because you never know what kind of questions are going to come out later on. You could say, well, I don't know. We didn't, there was no mechanism, and like they were standing on the porch, they're waving at us. Well, I don't know what we were supposed to think that way they needed to go to a trauma center for. So and then focus history and physical exam. Look, we already covered the sample history. There's already covered vital signs. There's no need to write any of that stuff in there. But this is where you can discuss some things that came out in the conversation that really weren't going to fit in there. All right. So, like the patient's description of the pain, maybe the patient had a way to describe the pain. Patient complains of an abdominal pain times 3 hours, described describes as a stabbing sensation that radiates to back. All right, look, here's something else that wasn't covered on there. You know, anytime you have abdominal pain, you want to talk about you want to talk about bowel and bladder history. These are just things that go along with a person with abdominal. Someone with abdominal pain, are they vomiting? So we need to talk about that. So denies nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. This is the abbreviation for nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, by the way, NVD. What else did she deny? Chest pain, shortness of breath, loss of consciousness, profuse sweating. So there was nothing on there about pertinent negatives. All right, pertinent negatives are one of those things where it's like, okay, you say what's the patient complaining of? What are they not complaining of that I give a shit about? Like I said, yeah, I get that she's having abdominal pain, but do I really care about? But we're really set up to do a lot more than that. We were really worried about we'd be really, but I'm trying to explain that this is just a normal ride to the hospital. This doesn't require anything more than just taking her to the hospital and dropping her off at there. This doesn't require anything extraordinary, and we didn't do anything extraordinary because of her complaint, not because we didn't like her or she lived in the wrong neighborhood or that we didn't like the type of person that she represents. Okay, these are all things again that EMS people may have to defend at some point. Okay, so profuse sweat. This is what she wasn't complaining of, and then we're going to say patient denies. Patient advises normal bowel and bladder history. Okay, and there you go. That tells the whole story right there. That's good enough. We don't need to really go on to it, but we do need to explain about to explain the process of transporting the patient. Because all we did was we said we went to this hospital, but we didn't talk about did we contact the hospital. And again, if you go to the hospital on an ambulance, you're unscheduled, and you show up and unannounced, they're going to bitch about it. They're going to bitch about everything you do. Okay, honestly, but with especially with the hospital being overcrowded in such in the way that they are, the you're going to find yourself in a situation where you're going to have to explain how did you tell them that you were coming? So we showed up and there was so you waited 5 hours on the wall and yeah, they're sending ambulances. People are driving to the hospital, and the ambulance is waiting in the hallway for 5 hours. That's what we're working with right now. So these are all things. So just getting to the hospital now is a lot more complicated than it used to be. So on a minimum level, you need to explain what you talked about with the hospital. So treatment. So we assess, took vital signs. Obviously, we contacted uh, Capital, who advised 15-minute wait time, advised patient, transported to Capital. And there you go, done. That's all it needs to say. Everything else that was important was covered somewhere in a piece of data. Okay, now I'm going to finish this report up, close it out. Okay, now I want to see you guys complete this, and then I want to see you guys do another one. I want to see you do the whole thing over again. So Venice, Tyler. All right. Blount, are you able to? I want you to do another one. Hey Xavier, are you able to hit save or something so we know where you're at? Okay. Okay, there it is. Got it. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Let's see. Wait. Timothy. Okay, perfect. Great. So now I want you to do. Yeah, very good. Now do another. Repeat this PCR once. Okay. Then we'll do one more. Okay. It looks like you guys are making pretty good progress. Don't forget to hit your save button. All right, looks like you guys are almost done here. We're just waiting on Timothy. He's almost finished here. Okay, are you guys going to be ready to do? Let's do one more, and we'll call it a day. So the requirement was for you to do five patient care. I mean, so 10 care reports. So this is number no, this is number five that you've done. So let's do one more today, and then we'll uh, then we can then you can duplicate that one once. So you guys let me know when you're ready to begin, okay? Well, okay, so I heard from Venice and Xavier, and they're ready to go. Tyler, are you ready to do another scenario? And Timothy just finished his abdominal pain scenario. So y'all let me please let me know when you're ready. Huh? Huh? All right, go. All right, here is another weird ass call. All right, so the ambulance service is standing by. All right, look at that. We're going to 123 Elm Street. Look at all the clones. AI is just so damn weird. All right, so not only are people going to the call, they're calling. Um, they are concerned that the call comes out. They're being dispatched to a child who's been hit by a car. So they call for a helicopter to meet them there. They show up on scene and they put the patient in the ambulance, and then they load the patient into the helicopter. for setting up a landing zone, and they fly the patient to the hospital. Again, it's so fucking weird. I love it. All right, there you go. There's a clone of the patient who's already healed, who's already recovered, thanks to your efforts. All right, so let's watch this again. I mean, this seemed like something you would watch on acid. Okay, so all right, so you're at the ambulance station. You're waiting for a call. A call comes out while you are, I don't know, you are apparently also work at a pharmacy. You and your clones are standing by waiting for this call. Now you're en route to the call, and you get reports of a child hit by a car. So now we report back to dispatch, who say, "Hey, I think we're going to need we don't have a pediatric facility in here, so we're going to have to that we have access to. So we have to call for a helicopter." So they launch the bird and put the patient on the stretcher. Maybe that's the patient's spirit. I'm not quite sure what AI was thinking with that one. Anyway, they set up the landing zone, and the helicopter lands and then takes off. And it also looks like it's leaking fuel. And apparently everybody's in the military, so it's really good. All right. Okay. So again, our job begins and ends by going to the hospital. So let's look at what the workflow of this is going to be like. So we're going to do a scene size up, and this scene size up is going to be a little bit more it's going to be a little bit more complicated because of the need for an additional unit, such as the helicopter. Okay, so you're going to get there, and there's going to be a significant mechanism of injury, and there's going to be a primary survey, and we'll have to immobilize the patient due to the mechanism of injury, and then we will load the patient into the ambulance, and then wait for the helicopter to arrive, then assist the helicopter crew with loading the patient into the ambulance. All right, let's begin. So now we're going to start another patient care report. Go to incidents, PCR version 3.5. Let me know when you're ready to start the next form. Huh? Huh? Awesome. All right, let's get started. Okay, awesome. Let's get started. We're going to call this helicopter. Again, like always, we're going to leave the this initial time down. Again, what was the point? Yeah, by the way, what was the point of all these different times associated with just getting the call dispatched? Well, a lot of that had to do with the fact of years of trying to get a paramedic to this call resulted in countless efforts to report delays in the call that had nothing to do with EMS, like dispatchers who lost the call or um, or whatever. All right. So the whole team had to be on point with how long it took them to get the call dispatched, receive the call, etc. So we're going to add our crew members in here. All right. Dispatch reason is a person hit by auto. Let's see. Let's actually have to look this one up. It'll probably be under traffic accident. There you go. Um, okay, that's fine. Traffic transportation incident. All right. It's critical or emergent. EMD was performed with instructions. I don't remember what the card number was for something like that, but let's go with 2 Delta. Okay. There was no dispatch delay. The unit call sign is Med 1. We are a BLS ground ambulance. We are the first unit on scene. Other agencies on scene will be um, let's find an air ambulance service. Let's see, Rescue Air, Omni Flight. All right, it's gonna be Omni Flight. So we used Omni Flight. And what type of service did they provide? They provided another EMS. Let's see. It was not the first. The other, we got there first. Okay, so we're going to have to go back and add this initial responder when we arrived at the scene, the vehicle. All right, so anyway, we move on. Type of service requested, 911 response to the scene. It was emergent. There was no delay. We had one patient. We made patient contact. Patient care and provided. And then the disposition is initiated primary care and transferred to another EMS crew. Because that's how helicopters are being looked at these days. They're being looked at as an alternate, another EMS crew. Like it's a, so they're actually being um, governed and inspected just like ambulances are now. Wasn't exactly like that for a long time. It used to just be like anybody could fucking could do this. In fact, I know a guy, a paramedic who bought a Huey helicopter and set himself up as an air ambulance. And they actually transported, actually picked people up. We called it Marable Care. Fucking hilarious. I mean, you look at what I do. I stick my ass way out here in the middle of the internet, right? That's one thing, but I mean, this guy really put some risk out there, you know. All right, transport disposition, transport by another EMS agency. Okay, transport by another EMS agency. Done. All right. Final acuity was critical. Mm. Incident location was, let's make it 123 Elm Street. I'm sorry. I mean, it's a street or intersection. My bad. Okay. All right. So it's going to be at 123 Elm Street. Zip code is going to be the same zip code you've been using. and look it up. Hit OK, then hit next. All right, we're going to save the response. Let's start with this. Let's put the first batch of response times in there just so we can get on scene. Okay. Okay. So there you go. You got arrived on. So as long as the calls are in sequence, that's all that matters. Okay. And we're going to leave the rest of the call. We'll come back for the rest of the times. Okay. Okay. Let's see. I wanted some more information here. Uh, Level of care provided. BLS all levels. Great. Okay. All right. So now we're going to go into patient info. Okay. All right. So this is going to be so the last name is going to be Doe. First name is John J. Date of birth is 1/1/2021. That puts him at 5 years old. He's a male. He is white. Estimated body weight. A 5 year old, in my opinion, weighs 60 kilograms. Okay. That's probably not true, but whatever. That's what I go with. All right. All right. The patient's home address is 123 Elm Street. Let's see. Hold on. Okay. Great. Done. So we just hit the same address to save the trouble. Patient phone number is 404-444-4444. Okay. Moving right along. Okay, so now the relative guardian relationship is the parent, because guess who the parent is? It is Jane Doe. Or it's the one who had been had abdominal pain earlier. Put a phone number in here. Okay, we're not worried about infectious disease for this particular patient. We're not a ground zero type this situation. Med surgical history is no history. So this patient has no history, which makes this a little bit easier to deal with. Medical history obtained from the family. There's no alcohol indicators reported. Possible pregnancy? No. Oh, come on. All right, just leave that one blank. I don't know. I think that has a little bug on it. Current medications, the patient takes none. Okay, he doesn't have any medication allergies. No barriers to patient care. Okay. All right. The patient's complaint is um, so let's say that he's got a broken leg and he was reported to be unconscious. Okay. So altered mental status or altered level of consciousness. All right. So the chief one is um, is right tibia fracture. Okay. Okay. Duration is like, I don't know, 5 minutes. Okay. Let's add another complaint, and let's say that it is he also um, loss of consciousness. That's a significant finding with when you get hit by a car. So whoever found him said he was unresponsive when they arrived. So that's what bystanders said. So we're going to definitely make sure that this gets documented. Okay. Primary symptom is acute pain due to trauma. Done. All right. And then other associated symptoms is altered, let's say, unresponsive. Hmm. Loss. Oh, okay, here we go. Consciousness coma. Okay. It's about as close you're going to get. Provider impression is altered mental status. Secondary provider impression is pain, trauma. Okay. Initial patient acuity is critical. Cardiac arrest, no. It's absolutely an injury. There was no stroke. I'll ask something here on the complaint. Let's see. This doesn't like something here. Oh, here it is. Last time known well was 1928, 0928. The cool part about this is you can go in there and you can actually just decrease the number of times with this little calculator doohickey. It's pretty neat. All right. And so see it flagged that information because we said it was I'm not 60, I'm at 30 kilograms. Yeah, sorry about that. Let's see. Let me see if we can put the patient's weight back in there. Should be 30 kilograms. Sorry about that. It's pretty heavy for a 5-year-old. There we go. That's better. That makes more sense. Okay, back to patient assessment. All right, so the injury information. Cause of the injury was a traffic motor vehicle. Let's see if there's pedestrian. Here we go. Pedestrian car pickup. Okay. Pedestrian car pickup truck or van is a blunt force. Okay. Trauma triage criteria. Okay, so let's talk about the trauma triage criteria. This is actually going to be found as a mechanism. There's really not anything. It's not no. There's nothing noted in steps. Let's see. He had altered mental status when somebody got there. Okay, pedestrian. Um, here we go. All right, so this is trauma. So steps. Let me back up a little bit and explain this to you real quick. All right, so this is the trauma triage criteria. Um, Now the it used to, this trauma triage criteria actually had come from initially the American College of Orthopedic Surgeons, and they gave you three criteria. Basically, there was a physiologic, anatomic criteria, and then a mechanism criteria. And you went to a trauma center most of the time based off mechanism. So you go in a highway accident, on there it said like highway speeds greater than 55 miles an hour goes to a trauma center. Well, the problem with with the American College of Orthopedic Surgeons. They really didn't have access to the data to really change the recommendations over the years. So the CDC picked it up, and they basically came up with they basically ran the trauma triage criteria, and they call it the field triage decision scheme. And let me just show you what that looks like. This is from the CDC. CDC field decision scheme. All right, and so they published this. I can find one that's readable. Yeah, anytime you deal with these recommendations, there's going to be a shit ton of stuff to read. You know, hopefully you guys like reading. I used to read all them. I read all this stuff. Let's see, there's a picture of it. There we go. All right, so here is the new triage scheme. All right. So the step one was like patients with altered level of consciousness. Like our patient had a report of altered level of consciousness, so that definitely puts him into step one. Step two was looking at specific injuries like um, penetrating injuries to the head, neck, or torso, flail, chest. Oh yeah, what else goes into step one? Well, this was things like, oh come on, thanks. All right, Glasgow coma scale less than 14, systolic blood pressure, respiratory rate. So this guy was unconscious for a report of unresponsive. So that's a GCS of less than 14. If he was in shock or whatever, then that'd be um, step one. So like, hey, we don't even give a shit what happened. That's what they look like. When we get there, then that's what it is. And I've actually had times where I didn't go to the trauma center because there didn't seem to be that much wrong with the patient, and then you drop them off at the local hospital, and then you get bitched at by the trauma team at the trauma center because they're like, why didn't you take them? Why didn't you go to the trauma center? And I'm like, well, it just didn't look that bad when we got there. It wasn't that big of an accident, but sometimes people just spontaneously combust. All right, so and then the last one was mechanism. So you can see that they made a huge effort to decrease the mechanism. So like falls greater than 20 feet, or children greater than 10 feet. High risk auto crashes. These are person hit by auto, large ejected from cars, motorcycle crashes. These are all things that are on there. And then they created this like a special criteria. Oh, come on. Really? They created this special criteria at the bottom where they talk about like uh these are like special needs patients, like older patients over than 55 years old. Um, Children should be triaged to preferentially to a pediatric capable trauma center. Anticoagulation and bleeding disorders, burns, time sensitive extremity injuries like hand, tourniquet, you know, end stage renal disease requiring dialysis, pregnancy. So these are all like, and then, okay, oh, the god dang, don't, or just use your judgment. Hey, shit stains, just use your fucking judgment. I bet you'll figure it out. So anyway, that's the kind of what that says. The All right. So anyway, back to this. All right. So that's what this was. Okay, just so you know, it's not a work related injury. It's not a fall, and there was no protective equipment. It's not stroke, STEMI, pregnancy. But now we're going to drop in some vital signs. So do a full set of vitals. It was not obtained prior to this unit, and so we're going to go in here and take age appropriate blood pressure. So let's say for a 5-year old, that's just going to be like 100 over 50. And yeah, when would you take the blood pressure? You would have taken the blood pressure in the back of the ambulance. Okay. You would not have done, you would have cut his clothes off and stuff like that, and you would have put him in the truck waiting for the helicopter. That's when the appropriate time for you to take a blood pressure would be. Anytime you have a report of unresponsive altered mental status, altered level of conscious, you should always check a blood sugar. All right, so the GCS when you found the patient was he was 15, so he's oriented, and he both come in. You're basing that altered mental status based on the fact that he was unresponsive before you got there. And what you're going to learn about when we finally get into trauma is what you're going to finally learn about is um, there is a head injury that causes a person to go in and out of consciousness. Okay. All right. GCS is no interventions. If the patient's alert, let's say the patient has a pain score of 10. Yeah, I think you need some drugs, but okay, great. All right, so now we're moving forward. Hit okay. Oh, it doesn't. There's something it doesn't like here. Oh, method of blood pressure. Jeez. Okay, should like that. Pretty good. Okay, great. All right, doing good. All right, provider actions. All right, procedures. We immobilized, and we did that right after we got on scene. It just wants to know about procedure complications. No, it's not going to accept that. Hold on, getting a phone call. Georgia, you must connect. I'm Gary speaking. Hello. Good. What can I do for you? Are you hello? For fuck's sake. Georgia EMS Academy.com. Gary speaking. Hello. Yeah, go ahead. Is this Rodolfo? Is this Rodolfo? Is this Rodolfo? Hey, is this Rodolfo? Hello. Shit. I don't know. He'll probably call back. He's one of our students for this afternoon. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. All right. Moving right along. Okay. So we immobilized, and then we also splinted that fracture. Okay. So we just applied a splint. We splinted. We splinted to the backboard. Here we go. All right. So it wasn't performed before. We did this roughly about this. We would have done this the same time we did the spinal mobilization. We did it one time. It was successful, and there was no complications. Okay, so we splinted. We did that, and then hopefully, I mean, obviously, we would have preferred to have somebody on scene to give some narcotics, but let's say that wasn't available. Okay, so all right, so let's take a look at our timeline. All right, so look now it looks like we can add our other times. Okay, so the times have been satisfied, and let's see our mileage: 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 5, 1, 2, 3, 6, 1, 2, 3, 7. All right, there you go. All right, so mileage is done. The only thing, so we're at 99%. So now we're going to type in our narrative. All right, so again, how much crap needs to go on here? I mean, look, we kind of covered everything, but again, it's not exactly telling the story in a way that's conducive. All right, let me get this call for real quick. Hey, is this Rodolfo? Jesus. Hello. Yeah, is this Rodolfo? Okay, yeah, you don't need to come. You don't need to show up online this afternoon. We'll see you next when you come to class next week. No, you don't have to show up. It's an online class, so it's yeah, it's on. We're meeting online to do patient care reports. You can just wait to do that next time if you want to. Okay, well I'll send you a link. You should have already gotten a link. You should have. I don't know if we sent you a link or not, but I'll send you a link. Yeah, that one. And there's another one that's online. The a link for today's session, and that class that starts at 3 p.m. Okay, great. All right. See you then. Bye. Oh God, that was fucking painful. Sorry you had to be a part of that. There's only some way I could give you back that time. Okay, now let's write this up. Scene size up. All right. So mechanism, pediatric hit by car. Requested medical air transport while en route. Um, okay. One patient. Okay. Primary survey. Patient found on street, found laying on street, on roadway, alert, C spine immediately stabilized. Then we're going to type in talk about the rapid trauma assessment. Head, no burns, no injuries. Neck, no injuries. Chest, no injuries. Abdomen, no injuries. Lower extremities, noted. Uh, Left tibia fracture. Upper extremities, no injuries. Posterior, no injuries. Treatment. All right. Recall, you guys haven't learned this yet, but you're going to learn about this secondary assessment that's coming up. Secondary assessment. We did sample, vital signs. You need to tell them where we did this because there's a lot of dumbasses that don't know. Secondary assessment in ambulance. Vital signs. No other injuries noted on head to toe. Treatment. Assess. C-spine. Splinted left tib onto backboard. Loaded into ambulance and awaited medical air transport. Who arrived 20 minutes later. Who arrived 10 minutes later. Who arrived 10 minutes later to transport patient to CHOA. And there you go. Oh, I would call it. You can call it. Let me save it real quick. Watch my stupid mouse froze up again. There you go. Heli. Okay, and there you go. That's that one. So that's your second. That's your second PCR. I'm gonna close it out. All right, good deal. All right, now what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to redo Heli one time. So I want you to redo may do another do the same PCR. So that's going to put your total at that'll put your total at 7. So that gives us 3 more PCRs we got to do before the end of the class. Okay, but I think we're about done here. So I'm going to let y'all do this other part on your own. Does anybody have any questions? Oh, okay, yeah, no problem. There you go. So I just want you to I want you to do this one more time. They would. True, they would.
They're both in one leg each. I'm sure. Let's see if they're both in shit. I'm not right. I'm like, I really, well, no, I already decided. Why not? It's gorgeous. Why not for better than being uncomfortable? Oh. Oh,
Okay. Awesome. Well, I see that you guys are well on your way to having this done. So, does any questions? All right. Well, I'm going to take that as a yes. I'm going to sign out. And if you have any questions, just send me an email.